Have you ever looked at a map and wondered how a tiny island nation like Great Britain could once control nearly a quarter of the world's land and population? It's a staggering thought, isn't it? How did the British Empire become the largest empire in human history? The story isn't a single event, but a complex tapestry woven over centuries with threads of exploration, trade, ambition, and conflict. It's a story that reshaped the globe, and its legacy is still with us today. So, let's unravel this epic tale. Our journey begins not with grand fleets, but with a surprising defeat. In the late 16th century, England, under Queen Elizabeth I, faced the mighty Spanish Armada. Against all odds, the smaller, more agile English ships, combined with a healthy dose of bad weather for the Spanish, secured a legendary victory. This wasn't just a military win, it was a massive confidence boost. It signaled that Spain's dominance of the seas was no longer absolute. The world's oceans, once a Spanish and Portuguese playground, were now open for business, and England was ready to stake its claim. Inspired by this newfound confidence, English adventurers and merchants began looking westward. The initial attempts at colonization in North America, like the mysterious lost colony of Roanoke, were shaky, but they learned from their mistakes. In 1607, Jamestown was established in Virginia. It was a brutal beginning, marked by starvation and disease, but it survived, largely thanks to a highly profitable crop: tobacco. This set a precedent. The early American colonies weren't just about planting a flag. They were about creating profitable enterprises. Further north, religious dissenters seeking freedom founded colonies in New England, establishing societies built on strong community and trade. These were the humble, yet crucial, first building blocks of a global empire. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, another engine of empire was revving up. The British East India Company, chartered in 1600. It started as a modest trading venture aiming to get a piece of the lucrative spice trade in Asia. But this was no ordinary company. It was a hybrid, part corporation, part state. It could raise its own armies, mint its own money, and even declare war. Initially, it focused on establishing trading posts, or factories, in places like Surat, India. They traded British wool and metals for Indian cotton, silks, and spices. It was a slow, patient game of building relationships and securing commercial advantages against their European rivals, particularly the Dutch and the French. The 18th century was the real turning point, a period of intense global competition, primarily with France. This wasn't just a European rivalry. It was a worldwide chess match, with colonies and trade routes as the prizes. The 7 Years' War, known in America as the French and Indian War, was the ultimate showdown. The conflict spanned Europe, North America, and India. When the dust settled in 1763, Britain was the undisputed victor. They kicked France out of Canada and solidified their dominance in India. With the brilliant, if ruthless, strategies of figures like Robert Clive, the East India Company transformed from a mere trading entity into the de facto ruler of vast swaths of the Indian subcontinent. The wealth plundered from Bengal filled the company's coffers and funded Britain's further expansion. The empire was now truly global, but empires are rarely stable. Just as Britain reached this new peak, it suffered a stunning blow. The American colonies, frustrated by taxation, without representation, and a growing sense of a separate identity, declared their independence. The American Revolutionary War was a humiliating defeat for Britain. It lost its most populous and prosperous colonies. Many thought this was the end of the British Empire. But they were wrong. Instead of collapsing, the empire pivoted. It was a moment of reinvention. Losing America forced Britain to look elsewhere, to Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. This swing to the east would define the empire's second, and even larger, phase. What enabled this incredible expansion and resilience? A huge part of the answer lies in the Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain. British factories were churning out textiles, iron, and machinery at an unprecedented rate. This created a voracious appetite for raw materials: cotton from India and Egypt, rubber from Malaya, and so on. At the same time, it created a need for new markets to sell all these manufactured goods. The empire provided both. The relationship was simple: Colonies supplied the raw materials and then bought the finished products back from Britain. This economic cycle was incredibly profitable for Britain and fueled further industrial and imperial growth. This industrial might was projected across the globe by the Royal Navy. After the Napoleonic Wars, the Royal Navy was the undisputed master of the seas. For nearly 100 years, it was larger than the next two biggest navies combined. This concept, known as the two-power standard, gave Britain total control over global trade routes. Its ships protected British merchant vessels, blockaded rivals, and transported troops to quell rebellions or conquer new territories. From the Caribbean to the China Seas, the saying "Britannia rules the waves" wasn't just a song lyric, it was a geopolitical reality. This naval supremacy was the backbone of the empire, allowing it to connect and control its vast, scattered territories. The 19th century, often called Britain's imperial century, saw the empire reach its zenith. This was the era of the scramble for Africa, where European powers carved up the continent among themselves. Britain, wanting to secure the strategic route to India through the Suez Canal, occupied Egypt and then pushed south, claiming territories from Uganda and Kenya to Nigeria and South Africa. They also consolidated their hold on India, formally taking over from the East India Company after the Great Rebellion of 1857 and declaring Queen Victoria the Empress of India. In the Pacific, they settled Australia and New Zealand. By the dawn of the 20th century, the sun truly never set on the British Empire. It was an intricate global network of colonies, dominions, and protectorates, all linked by trade, telegraph cables, and the power of the Royal Navy. So, how did it happen? It wasn't one single reason, but a powerful combination of factors. It began with a bold maritime spirit, born from defeating the Armada. It was built on the commercial ambition of joint stock companies and the profits from tobacco and sugar. It was supercharged by military victories over rivals like France, giving Britain control of key territories like Canada and India. Then, the Industrial Revolution provided the economic engine, creating a need for resources and markets that the empire supplied. And holding it all together was the unmatched power of the Royal Navy, which guaranteed control of the world's oceans. From a small, rainy island, Britain projected its power across the globe to build the largest empire in history. A legacy that continues to shape our modern world in countless ways. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical journey. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what piece of history you'd like to explore next. See you in the next video.